Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm really pleased to have the honour to stand in this House to debate the programming motion that will fast-track what essentially is an omnibus-type piece of legislation. And I say honour because we all speak in this House on behalf of the representatives that sent us here. It is the only thing that we produce at the end of the day are our words. They're the only tangible thing that we have at the end of the day is our reference to what we believe in, what the indications and the comments and ideas of our communities are, and how we represent those ideals in this chamber. And essentially what this programming motion does is that it fast-tracks and eliminates our ability to speak on these important bills that are built within the context of the programming motion. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to just take a brief moment to introduce some folks that are in the House today to listen to this debate. They're here today. I don't think they've been recognized. James St. John is the business manager for Central Ontario, for the Central Ontario Building Trades. Terry Snooks is the business manager for the United Association of Plumbers, Steamfitters Local 46, and president of the Central Ontario Building Trades. And Greg Mitchell, business manager, United Association of Sprinkler Fitters Local 853, are all here in the Members West Gallery to hear this important debate. I'm pleased to follow my colleague, my friend, the honourable member from Timmins, James Bay, who spent the better part of 50 minutes presenting our ideas, presenting our position on time allocation in general, on this Bill G8, and on the very nature of the context of this bill, which we have learnt that at the nucleus of the bill is the Bill 74, which is really the motivating factor for the programming motion. We've heard what Bill 74 intends to do. At the crux of its intent is to ultimately eliminate a long-standing collective agreement and bargaining rights for several trades with a singular company, Ellis Don. From the outset, Speaker, that is a slippery slope for this legislature to embark on. It's one that in the 2 years in this House that I've been here, I've seen twice now. The abrogation, the real destruction of collective bargaining rights. It happened before in the last session when the Liberal Party joined with the Progressive Conservative Party to circumvent bargaining rights for the province's teachers, for teachers in this province. It is absolutely the truth. It was called Bill 115, and it only passed because of the support of the Liberals and the Tories. And now we see that again. So it's interesting that those involved and those affected by Bill 74 will now, unfortunately, feel the same pain that our province's teachers did. They'll feel the same effect. They'll feel as though they've been taken advantage of, really. Because we all know that the Liberal Party of this province has had a long-standing relationship with the teachers. We know that they've had a long-standing relationship with the trades. And I think by and large it's been a relationship that has been mutually beneficial. And I'll tell you, coming from the perspective of a tradesperson, as a labourer, I benefited and have benefited personally, many have heard this story, by the fact that we have card certification in this province. It meant that when I was working on the highways in the heavy sector, I was under a collective agreement that only came about because the workers under that collective agreement signed cards to become unionized. That is a benefit, Mr. Speaker, that I think launched my family, launched the fact that I could raise a family in this province. The benefits, the wages, the protection under health and safety. What the party opposite, the governing party, is doing today is it's saying, forget labour law, forget bargaining rights, forget collective agreements. There's a massive corporation in this province that needs our help, and we're going to do absolutely everything we can to cater to their needs. And under the guise of this omnibus program in motion is Bill 74, that is built exclusively, singularly, to help Ellis Don in their operations. Essentially, ostensibly, to compete with foreign companies that are coming in and bidding against them. Now, I can understand that competition is a part of the free market. I can understand that there may be some fear that these foreign companies are coming in and because they're not unionized, they're going to be able to undercut what is a long-standing corporation that, by the way, Mr. Speaker, has profited quite handsomely over the last several years in this province, revenues in excess of, I think, $2 billion a year. But what surprises me is that it's coming from the Progressive Conservatives, where their federal cousins are promoters of the Comprehensive Economic Trading Agreement, CETA, which opens the floodgates to foreign corporations to come in and eat up domestic work in the construction sector, municipal tendering. I mean, you guys are all about competition, but yet when it comes to protecting one singular massive corporation, hey, let's hammer the workers. Let's destroy their collective agreements. Let's, again, remove their ability to bargain. It's in my, it gives me a feeling of sickness, really, truly and honestly, Mr. Speaker, that this House is being used for that singular purpose, that it has risen to the top of the priority list, and as my honourable colleague from Timmins James Bay has said, the members across the way should be ashamed. I don't think that the members on the opposition side, the Progressive Conservatives, would be ashamed, because we know their track record in terms of collective bargaining rights and their belief in labour rights and workers' rights. We know that they think the province would be far better off if we were all working for temp agencies under a right-to-work state. But what about the worker? What about the right to bargain? What about that fundamental right that is being decimated right now with Bill 74? Apparently, the government is choosing winners and losers. And we know that the workers who are currently under the auspice of this collective agreement, under this long-standing collective agreement, that have benefited from years and years of bargaining, they're the ones who are going to be the losers. No one's talking about the losers. Nobody's talking about the workers in this province. And I look forward to hearing after this is all played through, when it's gone through committee and we have had testimony and we've had various interest groups come and testify before the committee on Bill 74 and the omnibus bill, which I will call it. I look forward to seeing the government promote the benefits of doing this. I look forward to seeing them stand in union halls across this province and say, hey, we took care of Ellis Don. We dismantled the bargaining rights for several trade unions. Vote for us. Support us, because we know how to take care of the trades. It absolutely is going to, if it hasn't already, it should ruin your credibility with the trades and with all labour unions in this province from here into perpetuity, because you can't be trusted on that very fundamental, basic principle that bargaining rights are sacrosanct. They are something that you shouldn't be tampered with. Let it play out at the courts, and as we've seen, as my colleague from Timmins James Bay has so eloquently laid out, the chronology of how this issue has appeared. And that's an interesting story in and of itself, how this actually appeared to the floor. It was introduced by the member from Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, and as the Labour critic, the day that he introduced it, he had come up to me and said, I have a bill. It's on the order paper. I'd like you to take a look at it. And I said, well, what is it about? He said, well, I don't really know. I'm not quite sure. But I know that it's important, and I know we're going to need to talk about it. No specifics, no idea, no clue. Pretty indicative of the fact that he was not the original author of the bill and played very little part in its inception. Now, we all have a duty here, Mr. Speaker, to understand the complexities and the ramifications of our bills. We have a duty to present them to our members, regardless if they're going to support them or not. But I can tell you my own personal experience, I don't know if the government side had that experience, but the originator of the bill had no idea what it was about. I would also contest, I would argue, Speaker, that the majority of the members on the government side still to this day have absolutely no idea what the overall impacts of that bill are going to be. And there was a letter sent to the Premier from James St. John, the business manager of Central Ontario, of the Central Ontario Building Trades, that laid out some very serious red flags for you to consider on the government side. I don't know if members, are any of the members that are listening to me right now, did any of you hear it or listen to it or read it? I see no head nods. I would ask you urgently to read that document from James St. John, because it lays out some real potential pitfalls that you might not consider. That there are hundreds of collective agreements that might fall under the umbrella of this decision that are not the original intent, not the ultimate intent of the bill, but you're going to decimate hundreds of agreements that shouldn't even be close, shouldn't come close to being touched by this bill. That's an unintended consequence, and I think it's your responsibility to make sure that you do your due diligence on this bill. You have an ability also, with the motion that we put forward, to pull this thing back, to pull the reins on the bill, and to understand that in haste, you shouldn't proceed. I don't know if you're going to do that, but at least on our side, on the New Democratic side, we have given you the political space to do that. I would suggest you take that offer. Again, Speaker, on the point of view of the worker as sometimes I say former construction worker, but I am not. I mean, you know, when I leave this place, I could easily go back on the tools and have a great career and work with my colleagues. So you know, once you're a laborer, you're always there. No one's talked about the point of view of the worker. Tomorrow, when this bill goes through, tomorrow, the next day, or the next day, whenever it does rear its final ugly head and receive royal assent with the blessing of the Liberals and the Conservatives in this province, the workers will wake up that next morning with a massive amount of uncertainty. They won't know what their benefits are. They won't know what their wages are. They won't know who bargains for them. They won't know who their representatives are. And what is the message that sends to the broader public? It says that if you have enough money and you have enough influence and you get to the right lobbyists and they open the right doors, the laws in this province, when they relate to labor law, are flung wide open to you. And it's a sad, sad day and a sad state of affairs when we see that's as much as it takes. The highest bidder wins. I didn't think it actually existed prior to coming here, but now I see it. I see it in plain view. That influence actually gets you what you need, no matter what the ramifications are on the broader public. I'm looking forward to seeing how the government sells this in terms of how it benefits our economy, how it benefits our healthcare system, our education system, because we all look for bills that have triple net benefit here. But, Mr. Speaker, I only see one beneficiary of Bill 74, and it's Ellis Don, a company that has made, again, in excess of $2 billion in revenue. That's a massive amount. It's so massive, in fact, that I'm certain that they could find a legal solution to this, and in fact they did. On Friday, the Superior Court overturned the OLRB decision and ruled in favor of Ellis Don, something that I think was what they were looking for. And that's fine. Use the proper mechanisms through our court system. Use the purview of the judiciary to decide whether your case is valid or not, but don't come in here and yield power and influence and benefit your singular motive, which is ultimately, I would imagine, growth and profit. But who benefits? Well, CEOs, shareholders, but certainly not the workers. It begs the question, why then, in fact, given the decision at the Superior Court, why then the need to to double up on the elimination of collective bargaining rights? Why impose a legislative solution? Is it not a slippery slope precedent that we should not take in this House? And in fact, the member from Lanark laid it out quite clearly to his caucus in a communique that said, we shouldn't do this, guys, and voted against the original bill. This is the member from Lanark. Let's all think about the member from Lanark. Not known to be the most progressive person when it comes to labour law. But in fact, he saw the writing on the wall. This is a slippery slope. It's going to make us look quite anti-union. It's going to reinforce the narrative that Tim Hudak doesn't care about workers in the province. And now what are you doing? You're joining them. So it's only the member of Lanark who stands on his own, and I applaud him for doing that, for having the guts to say, this looks pretty terrible, guys. There's some big corporate donors over here, some big corporate donors over there, and all of a sudden, this bill bubbles to the top of the legislative agenda. It becomes the priority when students can't find work, when emergency rooms are clogged, when infrastructure is crumbling, when part-time precarious work dominates the spectrum of employment, helping Ellis Don profit more and eliminate